And we're back from a European tour, back to talking football, back to Tottenham being in the gutter. Luke, how you doing, mate?
I'm all good. I'm all good. I mean, it all happened so fast, didn't it? Like, we were away. I think we went away the day that Conte released or the press conference went out where
He
he
went on
just
an absolute
went on a
bender.
tear.
Yeah.
And we come back, and within a few days, he's Antonio Conte.
Bosh, indeed. I think, where do you stand? Do you think it had to happen now? Had to happen at the end of the season? What do you think?
I'm a little bit in the middle. I think their season's not over. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're still very much in the
Champions
race for
League
top
spots,
four.
decent, all right,
Like,
yeah.
they're not. It's not a bad season, to be honest. The football's been dry,
Driest
and
football
I
in the
mean,
league, probably. But
yeah, they have 2 points ahead of Newcastle in fourth.
they're doing
They've
all right.
got Newcastle do have a couple of games in hand though, and
Yeah.
I think if
Liverpool
Liverpool win their
close
two
as
games
well.
in hand,
Yeah.
they'll be like a point behind. But it's not been the worst season considering how badly performing like that's their like star players have been. Like Son,
Yeah.
poor. Richarlison bought in for that money, just so
Zero
poor.
goals. What a shambles.
Just what is that about? They brought in like an unbelievable amount of players. Like Yves Bissouma, has he really done anything? No.
Barely touched the field. Yeah.
Jed
Jed
Spence,
Spence
it looks
gone.
like he
Yeah.
was brought in only for the sake of Daniel Levy wanted him there.
Yeah.
It's like when you make a signing on FIFA just for the sake of having him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I don't know whether it was the right time or the wrong time. Time will tell. Personally, I'm leaning more towards just give him the end of the season. He's leaving at the end of the season anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, is Ryan Mason and what's the other guy's name? Scaletti or
This is
Spalletti?
Stellini. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Is they going to do any better?
I find
I
that
don't
weird
know.
as well because Stellini is a Conte appointment. Why is he still there? How's he just completely bailed and decided to keep the job? But I think I'm where you are, about 50-50, but I think I'm leaning towards it probably should have happened because you can't come out, especially as an owner. Like, I don't care about Daniel Levy, but he literally in the press conference said this. Do you know that Chiellini meme about it's the history of the Tottenham? Conte literally said that in a press conference as the Tottenham manager. Like, you actually can't do that. So as an owner, if you've got your like direct subordinate that's on like he's like the most expensive manager in the league, I'm pretty sure. To have the most expensive manager in the league who is now you got him in to win you a trophy, to stop that trophy duct, and you think he's the man. He's had success literally everywhere he's gone. For him to now in March or April, pretty much, be out of every competition that he's in line for, and then come out and be like, it's the history of the Tottenham. They all are losers. The owner is a loser. At that point, you've just got to shoot him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing is I don't know what is the benefit of sacking him now as opposed to in a couple months. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I
is it
think,
literally just because the negativity? Is it Daniel Levy just
yeah,
making a
I'd say
PowerPoint?
it's the negativity. Like, I can imagine, not that I'm a Spurs fan, and we don't have any Spurs fans in the group, but I can imagine if you were to speak to Spurs fans, the feeling is pretty negative at the moment about the football, about Conte, about Harry Kane potentially leaving, all of that. So I think being out of all the competitions, not really having anything to play for, I think to have something to get behind, be it a new manager, which we'll talk about in a bit, like someone coming in, maybe a change in style of play. I think having something from now to the end of the season to root for is potentially a bonus.
See, but like the weird thing to me is that I think they've come out and said that Ryan Mason and the other Donny are going to be in charge until the end of the season now.
Which is weird.
You still got 10 games or so left. Like, why not try bringing a manager, give them a little bit, see what they can get game experience of what they have to play with in
Yeah,
like
100%.
terms of what they need to get rid of in the transfer window, what they can bring back in. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
Harry
makes
Kane
no sense
leaves
to
and
delay it.
they get 100 million for Harry Kane or whatever. That's
Mm.
money in the budget for some signings. But for me, it's a weird one. I think, are they going to be better off in 10 games time for having sacked him for. I mean, I personally, I'm of the opinion they probably have a better chance of getting top four football if they'd kept him.
with him.
But that
Yeah,
is, but
that's a
time will tell.
good
Time will
point.
tell. Um, but the problem is, yeah, we'll move on to Tottenham as a whole. Bottle Job FC, the history of the Tottenham. They brought
Oh,
in Jose Mourinho, yeah,
yeah,
serial winner. Sacked him a week before a cup final,
mess.
which is mental. They've brought in Antonio Conte, serial winner. These two managers have won a trophy at every single club they've ever managed. Both of them have come to Tottenham, and they can't do it. They literally can't do it. I don't understand where
It's
it's going
broken
wrong.
them as well. They both come into Tottenham as like one of the top 5 managers in the world, and they've left Tottenham a shell of themselves, a broken old man.
Mate,
And it's,
Conte was on a Ryanair flight.
mate,
He
it's
was with
aged them
us.
like 100 years being the Tottenham manager.
Yeah. So where does this stem from? Is it like are Tottenham players too soft? Is there a club mentality where there's too much money or it's too easy? There's not a winning mentality. There's not a feeling that every day you're going to go in and you might get dropped. Are Tottenham just as a club too nice? Are they? Do they lack that ferocious nature within them to be able to like tear teams apart and to like actually just go every day in and want to win?
Mm.
Because I don't think they will. They're professional footballers. They want to win everything.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
Harry Kane in that team who wants to be a serial winner but can't win for the life of him. You've got players like Heung-min Son who literally joint top scorer in the Premier League without penalties with like Salah and whoever.
Yeah.
It, you've got killers in this team, yeah, and we've seen it before where they've absolutely tore teams apart, 3-4 goals in a game. But where does this like? I don't understand how they haven't won a trophy with since the beginning of Pochettino's era after Harry Redknapp left.
Yeah.
There are issues. There are issues here, and I don't know whether Daniel Levy is the problem. Is Levy making signings like behind the back of managers because he thinks that's the right decision? Is
Yeah.
he influencing too heavily in the transfer market? Are managers not getting the players they actually want involved? And if it does come down to Levy, I can't see Daniel levying soon
Not a chance. That was good. Not a
because
chance, especially with the new
it's a
stadium.
new stadium, yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to buy into it with the stadium debt, and he's invested too much to leave now, so they're stuck with him long term. And I don't, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of like being a Tottenham fan and Levy and what he's doing. Like maybe he is as bad as they make out, but in my opinion, given like say 10 years ago, they were a nothing club. They were a mid-table, maybe pushing for lower European spots club. Daniel Levy has invested so heavily. I know they say he didn't really back Pochettino, but he's got in winners like Jose Mourinho, winners like Antonio Conte, given them like 200 mil apiece. He's got them a new stadium. I don't really know what Spurs fans want more than that in terms of an owner. He's
And
put them on
in
the map.
terms of in terms of like their stature as a club, they're now a global force in world football.
Yeah,
Like
I think their
they have gone
income
from
was
being that
bigger
sort
than
of like
Arsenal last season, which is
they
crazy.
they were probably on like the same level as like I don't know, I don't want to like disrespect like any teams, but they're probably on the same level as like maybe a Villarreal or like a Sevilla sort of like vibe.
Yeah, Sevilla's a good shout.
And now
Although Sevilla's got
they're
back
now
to back to back Euro UEFA Cups, whatever it's fucking
but
called.
yeah, now they're
Crazy.
like a big, massive name in not just like football, but global football. Like
Yeah,
look at how the arrival of Son and his success has brought them a massive market in the Asian area. It's like they're a
yeah,
massive club now in Korea,
yeah,
like
big time.
huge. So they have Daniel Levy has to get his plaudits. He has done
Yeah,
unbelievable things for that club,
I think so.
and it's very easy, I guess, from an inside perspective, for you to be like, "Oh yeah, we want more. He's not doing enough."
Yeah,
That's the nature of the game. But
but
yeah,
it's
I
a
don't know.
business. Football's a business now, and he's running the Spurs business, in my opinion, as an outsider, quite well. He's like we said, he's probably tripled their value since he arrived, and so in that sense, I'd say he's been a good owner. And like you said, as a fan, you always want more. You always want bigger, better signings. But they signed Richarlison for 60 million, Romero for 50 million. I don't know, Jed Spence for 30 million, Bazuma for 40 million. What more do you want? It's not his fault. unless, like we said, he's getting too involved in the transfers, that these transfers have all pretty much flopped. So I'd say you can always look at the owner and blame the owner. That's fine. But in my opinion, the players are just not good enough. I don't want to liken it back to Arsenal, but I remember an Arsenal team that had like prime Ozil, prime Sanchez, and maybe like Santi Cazorla or Ramsey, and then the rest of the team was shit. And I see like similar things in this Tottenham team. You've got prime Harry Kane, prime Son, and then I don't know, maybe like Højbjerg's okay, and then the rest of the team is just dross, and you can't win. You can't be the best team in a cup competition. You can't be the best team in the league if you've got so many shit players. And we said it in the podcast near the beginning of the season about when Spurs were on that fat run of losses. And we were like, what's going wrong at Spurs? And we said they've got too many players that just aren't good enough. And I think that is kind of the crux of the problem. That
They're all players though who are sort of like bordering good enough, but just they get away with it way too much.
yeah,
They aren't consistently elite players. Whereas now you look at the likes of City, a player might drop an under like a 7 in a game, maybe once every 10 games.
yeah,
Right, but the players around them are so good that they can get away with it. Same with Arsenal this season. Every Arsenal player has elevated themselves to a level which they
yeah.
haven't fallen below, but like an 8 per game.
Oh my god,
Like
have you seen that like thing of like Saka's kind of recent ratings for like his last 30
that's
games?
what I
And
mean.
they're all like 8.5 plus. It's crazy.
But yeah, it's they like you say. There's a lot of dead wood,
So
and
much Deadwood.
who is going to be the man to get the most out of the Spurs team, or potentially rehaul the whole squad? Who knows?
I
Who's
tweeted
it
this
going to
earlier
be?
from the BoreDraw account. I think it needs to be a complete squad rebuild. And I think Harry Kane is like the core of, not the problem, but the core of kind of like the discussion. Is like, he has no reason to stay now. He kind of stayed that extra bit thinking that Conte would get him a trophy. And now that Conte's gone, he's not going to put his faith in any new hire getting him a trophy at Spurs when he can leave and have so much of a better chance to get a trophy. So I think as a Spurs fan, and they must have now resigned themselves to losing Harry Kane.
So talking about the new manager, the favourite at the minute is Julian Nagelsmann, who was sacked at
Sacked by
like
Bayern, which is crazy
10 p.m. on
because
a random midweek night just by
they're in
Bayern
what, the
Munich.
Champions League quarterfinals or semis? Semis now, isn't it?
I think they're a
And
point behind Dortmund at the
point
top of the
behind
table.
Dortmund, yeah. It's like not doing that badly, but to be fair, Tommy Tuchel was on the market, and in my opinion, is an upgrade on Nagelsmann.
But like, you've got to understand, Bayern Munich relied so heavily on Robert Lewandowski in the previous seasons. To
Yeah,
lose a player of his caliber, it was going to be a transition season. They've gone from playing with an out and out, like what probably the most consistent number 9 in the world over the
yeah,
last like 3 or 4 years, probably longer than that. And now they brought in Sadio Mane. They're playing with him as a false 9. They've been playing with Muller as a false 9. They've been playing with Musiala in a free role, sometimes sitting below in a false 9 role. So they've been playing like a completely different system in, and they brought
mm,
Nagelsmann in to be able to do that. And he's not
yeah.
doing a bad job.
No,
Like
he's not.
to be fair, to be honest, I think they've been maybe the best team in the Champions League this season.
Yeah, they
I
tore
think,
PSG apart. Yeah,
yeah, they absolutely slapped teams about. I think they only conceded like 2 goals or all competition. So it was a strange one for me, but it's the top end of the spectrum. They're the cutthroat teams that, and the reason
yeah,
they
yeah.
are so successful is because they make these decisions. Do find it ironic though that he was replaced almost immediately by Tuchel, who was actually the guy who gave him his start in world football
Yeah.
in the management role at, I think it was 1860 Munich, the under 17s. He actually gave him first like management role, but he's a young progressive manager, youngest ever manager in the Bundesliga. I think he was 28 or something
Oh,
because he had
mad.
his career cut short by injury, but. He is a really progressive manager. His time at Hoffenheim, Leipzig, even at Bayern Munich, we've seen sort of the way he sets up. And I think he said it himself. He was like, football is like 30% tactics and 70% like social ability, like how you can communicate with your players, how you can understand them. But fam, Spurs are lacking that 70% heavy.
Yeah, I've seen that apparently he's not ready to move on, and maybe that plays into Spurs' hands if they're waiting till the summer. Maybe he will be ready in the summer, but I don't know. I think, like I've said, Spurs are looking for a rebuild, and a rebuild kind of manager is what they need, and Nagelsmann definitely fits that kind of profile, alongside a couple of others that we'll get into. But yeah, it's just if they're willing to wait to the summer, and if he's willing to make the move, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from sort of his early days at Hoffenheim, he played a system very similar to what Spurs have been playing under Conte. The three at the back, just sort of
Mm.
lightweight in midfield, but then like heavy up top again. And they've sort of done what Spurs do, where in possession they're like a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, and then out of possession they drop to like a flat five.
Yeah.
So maybe the transition wouldn't be too difficult there for the players, for like the technical staff that remain. But the issue for me is that I think 70% of the problem is the fact that Spurs are playing a three at the back formation
Yeah.
when the centre back role is probably their worst role. I mean,
Yeah, that's
the
what I was going to
only
say
the
earlier.
only
They've got
centre
so
back I
many
say who
stinkers.
the only centre back who I say is probably world class is Christian Romero, but he comes with a massive, massive, massive tag of he's gonna get a red card at every other game.
Genuinely, I think he's so bang average, but he's
I
the
don't think
best
he
of
is.
that lot.
Maybe he just looks good in that Spurs team,
Mate,
but
if you're alongside Eric Dyer, I reckon I look good.
Ben Davies,
Mate,
like
they're all so bad. And then Hugo Lloris in goal. They need a complete revamp of the entire defensive unit.
yeah, we saw it with like when Gareth Bale left and they spent the Bale money, they bought in the
Yeah.
likes of Lamella, Ericsson, like Soldado, I think as well
Yeah.
at the same time.
Who else? That centre back. I can't remember his name. Bloody
But
Cortes?
if
Yeah, maybe.
if Harry Kane leaves,
Yeah.
they've got a little bit of money to work with there. They'll get 100 million for a minimum,
Yeah, I'd try and shift on Richarlison. I think PSG will probably sniff around him, sell him on.
and maybe build your team around like Son is your sort of main outlet. Get like a nice young striker in.
Get Evan
Gift
Ferguson.
gift gift Orban maybe. Yeah, Evan Ferguson is sort of built in the same sort of style as a Harry Kane.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that'd be a good move.
slightly more physical maybe, but
Should we
and like
talk
less
about the
playmaker.
man that I think is probably taken all the headlines when the Spurs job went on the market? A return for Maurizio Pochettino. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, he's the only man who has a better points per game than
Then Conte.
Conte,
Yeah.
which goes to show. But I think the team that he had in the time he had
Was better.
was levels above this
So many
team.
players. He had a defensive unit that was actually good in
Vertonghen,
like a prime Hugo
Alderweireld,
Lloris, who is now over the hill and far away. And then bloody who are the two Belgian boys?
Vertonghen,
Vertonghen
Alderweireld.
and Alderweireld.
Yeah,
So he had a quality unit there, which he now doesn't have. Obviously, he built that team from scratch, pretty much brought the players in and kind of curated the players that he wanted. So maybe he'll have to do that again. But I think what he was let down by was a lack of investment, obviously, and he was kind of sold down the river by Spurs when he probably shouldn't have been let go. So I think if he does come back, he probably comes back with like loads of caveats in terms of if I come back, you invest in me like you did Conte and Jose Mourinho. I want like 200 million a window. I don't know. He'd ask for a lot, I think, but that's where Spurs are now. They've got if they're a big club, they've got to do big club things.
yeah. I mean, he sort of built his name as a manager at Spurs. So I guess maybe that's a reason they didn't back him. He had the time at Southampton, which led on to his time at Spurs. But maybe the reason they didn't back him was because he was sort of like he wasn't a name at that point, like
Mm.
Mourinho, like Conte. He's obviously gone to PSG, won the league with PSG. Um, didn't do the Champions League thing that they want him to do, which is
Yeah,
like seems to be the only caveat of being the PSG manager is win that Champions League. But I don't think it's the wrong decision, but I don't know if it's the right decision.
They always say never go back, don't they? But I think if you were Spurs, you'd be crazy not to try and get him back. He's arguably the best manager you've ever had at your club. He's got you the highest points tally I think Spurs have ever got in the Premier League. You got them the first ever Champions League final. He pretty much curated one of the best Spurs teams ever, and pretty much got them alongside the investment from Daniel Levy. He's probably got them as like a European giant now. It'd be crazy not to at least try and get him back. I know
Yeah,
his time post Spurs hasn't been great, but
I mean, but it's just been dry, isn't it? It's literally just like 2 years out, PSG, year at PSG, and then nothing.
yeah.
Like it's he was only Spurs manager like 4 years ago. It seems
Yeah.
like we've had like a
Mate,
merry-go
it's mad. They've had
turnaround, but
3 managers in 4 years. Yeah, crazy.
yeah, it is. It could be a stroke of genius bringing them back, but it almost seems so simple an answer that it's got to be wrong.
I think the pros, obviously, he knows Spurs, he knows the Prem. He'll have the fans on side immediately. He probably, if there's any manager that will maybe get Harry Kane to stay, it's probably him. Because if you get another big hitter like Luis Enrique or let's say Zidane, that's not going to happen. Harry Kane's already done the big name managers that will promise him a trophy but not deliver. So he's not going to stay for that. I think the only reason he'll stay is for kind of like the romance of the story that Pochettino comes back and gets him a trophy. So there's a decent amount of pros, but yeah, like you said, the cons are since leaving Spurs, he's been out of the game, and when he was in the game, he was dry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one for me. Pochettino could be the one, but the fans seem to want him back. The fans, I think he is the most popular of all the choices.
I think that's it. Once you've got the fans on your side, it's light work, man. Especially because the fans at Spurs at the moment are probably at the bottom of the gutter, so they need something to kind of
Lift them.
And yeah, the romance of Pochettino, I think, would be good for Spurs. But
If I'm a Spurs fan right now, and I have any pick of available managers, I'm going Zidane.
let's talk about Zidane.
But he's not. It won't happen.
It can't. Surely, my guy's won like 4 Champions Leagues, and he's going to go to Spurs after watching 2 managerial giants pretty much
But
resign their careers.
would that put him in the conversation of greatest manager of all time who went to
Mate, I'd do
Spurs?
that right now. I'd say if he goes to Spurs and wins them anything, he'd immediately be best.
Maybe anything that's like of the caliber of the Premier League or Champions League.
Yeah, Prem or Champions League. If he wins them either of those in his time, he's immediately best manager ever.
Oh, that's an interesting one. That you got anything else to say about this? The Spurs?
Give it Ange Postecoglou, mate.
You think?
No. I like Ange Postecoglou, though. I do want to see him in the Prem.
Yeah, no. Ange Postecoglou, he plays an amazing style of football.
Yeah.
A lot of football hipsters are absolutely in love with him. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who does end up at Spurs.
Just let Ryan Mason do it. Take them down to like mid-table.
Oh, I don't even know what to respond to that. Yeah, do it. Do it. Yeah, I mean, anything else to add? All good?
Nah, yeah, all good. Fuck Spurs every single time, but we'll see.
We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, guys, let us know down below who you would have at Spurs, who you think will end up in the role. Would Pochettino be a success? Would Zidane be the GOAT if he won Spurs the title?
He would.
Who knows?
I'm going
Yeah,
to put
let us
a poll
know.
out. Yeah, that's a madness.
Let us know down below. But yeah, remember to subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Euro Tour will be out soon. We'll be back with our podcast regular. Stick around, boys.
Regular scheduled programming will resume.
Anyway, it's been BoreDraw. Thanks very much for watching, and it's live.